here. Very kind of, I don't know, tropical, I guess. But anyways, I wanted to go over this article. I thought it was really interesting. There was, as you know, I've kind of been an advocate for Ross Albright and kind of a lot of things that kind of went down with that whole situation. And there was this recent news that came on Bitcoin.com. I left the article in the description below. But the title just really caught my eye. And so it's interesting to kind of go down here and learn about Curtis Green and how just recently he has, Green says now he can publicly discuss after selling his movie rights and publishing a book called Silk Road Takedown. So, he's agreed to a deal, and they're going to be making some sort of, documentary about it or whatnot. And now he's being a little bit more public. And so he took this picture right here where he's basically, this is where he faked his own death, according to his own records. So I thought this was kind of interesting. And if you go even a little bit deeper into some of his claims, this was part of a conspiracy against Dead Pirate Roberts, DPR, who was the code name for Ross Albright, supposedly. Now, there's been a lot of stuff that's disputed that. There's a lot of people that basically say if that were to be true, like that person would probably be schizophrenic because of all of the different conversations that were going on at all different times, at all times. And part of the huge argument is that there were multiple people that were using that account. It was kind of like an administrator account, and there were several people that were involved with that. However, part of the legal process was to pin this case on him, and I've left a few different things in the description below. I really encourage you guys to get just to look into this and pay some attention to it, because I do think it has some overall consequences for everything that's kind of going on in crypto right now. He's serving a double life sentence for a nonviolent charge. Basically was the operator of something that was all about privacy, free markets. There was no victim in the trial, and so this is some of the railroaded charges that were kind of conspired against him, and this is just more proof of what's coming out and why this has even reached the level of the Supreme Court, and how they still have sided with the outcome in the case. The person that did the sentence, there's very little of her online, and that's the other thing I really despise about the legal system, is that there's really no accountability, in my opinion, for the judicial system, and kind of some of their rulings, and how the entire case was just this complete facade, really, for government control in a lot of ways. So I really try to kind of bring a light to some of these issues, and this is just another thing that kind of plays into that. And since I'm also getting involved with other projects and platforms, and some of these platforms are not in the US, they're in foreign countries, they don't understand how corrupt some things are in the US legal system, and just how things can really play against you. You're essentially guilty until proven innocent, and it takes very expensive lawyers to prove your innocence. And even then, the way that things can be argued legally, a lot of pertinent information can be withheld from the hearings and trials and whatnot, as was in Ross Albright's case. His entire case was not heard, really, and they essentially just moved forward, and it was just a lambasting of things against the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. And there was another thing, gosh, I don't know if I can find this, but there was a Judge Napolito. There was a interesting thing where he was basically coming out and criticizing Cabana. So in U.S. politics, the Supreme Court Cabana and his appointment was very. Judge Napolito was really going hard against him, and part of it was because of a relation to the Fourth Amendment. And he kind of brings this up in this meme that's kind of circulating on Facebook, where he goes into and explains how, Cabana was really behind the Patriot Act, which has, vastly diminished the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution, and how a lot of that stuff is interpreted legally, and how, you can be subject to just, huge violations of your privacy in order to sometimes have a case built against you based on, information that was, I just have a serious issue with some of this stuff. I just kind of recently, I've had to deal with it on my own, and so it's one of the reasons why I enjoy being over here in Asia. It's a refreshment. Let me check in with the chat. They took the benefit, sad but true. Jail is a benefit that you cannot accept. Better catch one of these live streams before somebody deletes it. Yeah, the U.S. legal system, it's overcomplicated, and it's done in a way that protects corporate entities that have also been, in terms of like how they're interpreted legally, they kind of get defined almost as like a person or an individual entity, the corporate entity, and so they have rights in that way, but it's a can of worms for sure. So I don't know how much I really want to get into it, but I just kind of wanted to touch on this and bring light to it, because this article I thought was pretty interesting, and some of the stuff they were even talking about with this, 500, like Green gave investigators passwords and credentials to major dealers selling wares on the market. A couple of days later, about $500,000 worth of Bitcoin was stolen from vendors, staff due to Green's leaked information handed to the police. So there was this fake torture where they were, fake beating him up, using phony waterboarding techniques to make it look as he was bruised and beaten. Green claims the agents told him DPR wanted him dead and asked him and his wife to perform a fake death. Under instructions from federal agents, the former SR administrator and his wife created a bogus death photo using a can of red soup. Jeez. Green was also pretended that he was dead for close to a year and never left his house in Utah. So I called DPR possibly schizophrenic, because if it was only one person, that's how much I thought there were multiple people taking on the DPR role. There was a lot of evidence to prove that there was more than one person that was involved with the DPR account, and that was kind of a big legal point of emphasis in regards to that case, and kind of verifying identity and to a particular individual, and then kind of like setting up this entire kind of fake murder scene and fiasco, and kind of how that was lambasted. Like that was actually, what was heard in court, as opposed to the other side, which was much, much more credible information in terms of how corrupt the federal agents were for obtaining some of the information they did to gain some of the information they had in the first place. And part of it was the servers in Iceland. And they're not willing to admit some of that stuff in court, and they were able to get some of that stuff not heard in that proceeding. So I just like bringing a little bit of light to this, and a few other things. I'll just talk briefly about a few other things that kind of going on in the market. One of the things I just kind of recently took a look into was EOS DApp games. So I've been in the DApp space for a little while. I was in a lot of the different Ethereum-based platforms when they were trending. Right now, none of these platforms have 1,000 daily active users, so it's been kind of, these really two at the top, these two exchanges have really held these positions for quite a while. There's some of these games that are really starting to take off, but I think what's interesting is just how we're seeing that change with the amount of activity in the EOS platforms. Now, those numbers have been, at least with Ethereum, they have been faked in a way. Like with the prime example is the farming games, kind of those style of games that kind of hit the ETH dApp space for quite a while, and they were using a lot of bots on the platform, and that was increasing the daily active users. But the transactions with EOS are much faster. It probably has a lot more potential. It doesn't have some of the limitations with Ethereum. Ethereum is limited, and there are some of these next generation platforms that are going to be better in terms of maybe something we might see really kind of take over the spaces. The thing that I guess has kind of gotten me away from getting into some of these types of platforms is a lot of them are kind of like dice games, or just they don't have a whole lot of complexity to them. I did want to take a look into Tron. I know there's been a lot of people talking about the Tron dApps, and there is more daily active users, but again, like it's dice, it's kind of these dance games, and those aren't kind of what really piqued my interest before. But I'm keeping an eye on that space, and also this is kind of an interesting look at the market just in kind of the last quarter. I want to do a little bit more of an in-depth review of Factum after just having my video taken down for no apparent reason. So I haven't done as much research on Mobile Go, and this has been trending for a while. So I want to take a little bit of a deeper look into Mobile Go, and I really want to also get into Aurora. These three projects I want to look a little bit more into, but I wanted to just kind of bring those up. Let me check on the chat a little bit. EOS is centralized. It's it's hard to disagree with that, and I do think that maybe it's it has some advantages over Ethereum, and for maybe some of those next steps that we need to see, like one of the things I guess I was looking at with this was, let me look into this. They had this this game that I was looking on EOS dApps, this EOS Nights, which is currently the #1 game. If you get into this one, click around here a little bit, getting into this website. Some of the capabilities of this platform over one like Ethereum, and this is kind of I guess some of the things that I'm seeing. Like this is much more catering to a younger audience, and that's one thing that I think I also want to really keep an eye on. These tend to do really well in Asia as well. Some of these like cuter anime games, we've seen the success of Crypto Kitties, even in adoption really in the U.S. Has been the primary market. But some of these platforms, you get a little bit of a backing by something that really takes off in China, in Japan, and Korea. It can really help kind of with the initial adoption of that platform. US sucks for crypto. I do OTC trading, and so many are buying huge amounts of OTC. News scares us all. Whales buy. Once fully, they will let the price recover. So sad to see. I think it's kind of going a little bit over what I feel like is manipulation in the market right now, and I can kind of see with the interest as low as it is, and some more of the just really kind of hardcore crypto people that are really just kind of still in the space. With maybe the volumes dropping, I could see I could see a lot more instances, especially with some newer understandings of the crypto markets, how things could be easily be manipulated. So yeah, that kind of gets into a can of worms. There's been some things that have been on my mind about that. I don't want to get into too much here, but Asian languages are picture based, so they like picture games. Yeah, like my girlfriend, when she writes Mandarin, Chinese, it's just so foreign to me, and that's Japanese, Korean. It's a little bit different here in Vietnam because it still has because of the I guess like the Latin language influence, where with the characters and stuff, it's kind of a different thing that you would see. You see the same thing with Indonesia and Bahasa, which is also the primary language spoken in Malaysia. But yeah, but I'm very interested in getting into China and learning a lot more about that market. I'm just trying to figure out how to get the visa situation worked. There's this guy I follow in Saigon. He's kind of an expat nomad, and he was just going over the same issues of trying to get a visa in that country. It's just a nightmare, at least here in Vietnam. I might have to go to like Hong Kong or something and try there. We'll see. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you all staying online. I think that's it for me. Show you guys a little bit of where I buy weed. It's a great